You've been taught that love means giving everything, that to be a good man, you must always be available, understanding, patient, even when she stops being those things with you. You've been told that love is sacrifice, that real men never walk away. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you beg to be loved, the less lovable you become. There's a moment in every man's life when he realizes he's been chasing connection from weakness, not strength. He's been apologizing for emotions he didn't cause, explaining himself to someone who already stopped listening, trying to prove his worth to someone who's forgotten it. And that moment is where power is either lost or reclaimed. Love was never meant to be begged for, because the second you beg, you hand over your authority, not just in the relationship, but in your soul. You make her the source of your validation instead of the reflection of it. You start orbiting around her emotions, trying to fix her moods, waiting for approval that will never come. True masculine power isn't found in control. It's found in composure. It's the ability to stay calm when everything around you tempts you to panic, to love deeply but never lose your center, to walk away when your peace is at stake, even if your heart screams to stay. Stoicism teaches that your value doesn't depend on who loves you, but on how you carry yourself when love is tested. It's not about coldness, it's about clarity. You don't withhold emotion to appear strong. You master emotion so you don't need to beg for what's already yours. Respect. The man who holds power doesn't chase reassurance. He creates it within himself. He doesn't demand attention. His silence commands it. He doesn't fight for love. He simply shows up as love and walks away when it's no longer reciprocated. In this video, you'll discover how to hold power in love without begging for it, through stillness, control, and emotional discipline. Because when a man learns to stop chasing affection and starts embodying value, he becomes unforgettable. And that's when everything, respect, attraction, peace, begins to return on its own. Let's dive in. Number 1. The moment you lose power. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins quietly. A small change in the way you speak, in the way you wait for her reply, in the way your peace starts depending on her response. You tell yourself you're just being caring. You tell yourself you're trying. But deep down, something's shifting. The energy that once made you magnetic is slowly being replaced by anxiety. This is how most men lose power. Not through weakness, but through overinvestment. They start giving more than they receive, hoping effort will equal value. They mistake persistence for love and patience for self-worth. But love given from fear isn't love. It's bargaining. It's saying, please stay, because I'm afraid to lose you. And the moment that fear enters your energy, attraction begins to die. You see, women don't lose interest because you care. They lose interest when your caring becomes desperation. When your focus shifts from your mission to their mood. When your actions are no longer grounded in purpose, but in panic. The same calm man who once led with presence now follows emotions he can't control. Power isn't about dominance. It's about direction. When you know who you are, love flows naturally. When you lose that sense of self, you start trying to earn something that was never meant to be earned, affection. And that's when everything changes. She starts to feel it, the imbalance. She feels that your confidence is no longer self-sourced. She senses that your energy is no longer stable. That's when she pulls back, not because she wants someone else, but because your vibration shifted from strength to scarcity. That's the paradox of love. The more you chase, the further it runs. The more you beg for affection, the colder it becomes. Because real love doesn't grow from need. It grows from peace. The moment you lose power isn't when she walks away. It's when you forget that her validation isn't your oxygen. You were never meant to chase her love. You were meant to embody the kind of calm that makes her love flow towards you naturally. So before you can hold power, you must see where you gave it away. Not to her, but to your own need for control. Because the first act of strength is awareness. Number 2, the illusion of control. Most men think control means power. They believe that if they say the right things, show the right emotions, send the perfect message, or do enough good things, they can make her stay. They try to manage her feelings like a chessboard, move by move, hoping to influence her reaction. But what they don't realize is this. The more you try to control love, the faster it slips through your hands. Control is born from fear, And fear is the enemy of attraction. You can't hold someone's heart through logic or pressure. You can't convince a woman to feel something she no longer feels. Because attraction isn't built through persuasion. It's built through energy. And energy can't be forced. It can only be embodied. When a man tries to control a woman's love, he's really trying to control uncertainty. He wants safety. He wants guarantees. He wants to know that she'll never leave, that he'll never be replaced, that the story won't change. But love isn't supposed to be safe. It's supposed to be honest. The illusion of control makes men believe that holding on tighter prevents loss. But in reality, it creates it. Every "where are you?" text, every explanation, every emotional reaction says, "I'm afraid," and fear is never attractive. The Stoic man understands that peace doesn't come from control. It comes from acceptance. He doesn't chase, because he knows what his will stay. He doesn't panic when she pulls away, because he knows that love rooted in truth can't be stolen. He doesn't manipulate, because manipulation is a tax on insecurity. Control is the ego's way of protecting the heart, but Stoicism is the soul's way of freeing it. When you stop trying to control everything, her attention, her affection, her actions, something incredible happens. You regain control of yourself. You become stable again, grounded, clear. Your focus shifts from trying to manage emotion to simply experiencing it without fear. The man who stops chasing control doesn't lose her. He earns her respect, because respect grows where peace lives. And here's the paradox that Stoicism reveals. When you stop trying to control love, you finally start to attract it, because nothing is more magnetic than a man who can remain still in the middle of emotional chaos. That's where real control begins. Not in her reactions, but in your response. Number 3, power through detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It's not about rejecting love. It's about rejecting dependency. The modern man has been taught that love is something to chase, something to earn, something to hold on to at any cost. But in that pursuit, he forgets the truth. You can't hold what you fear to lose. Power begins the moment you realize that love is not possession. It's presence. The Stoic man understands that everything in life, including relationships, is temporary. Not in a sad way, but in a liberating one. When you accept impermanence, you stop begging for guarantees. You stop begging for love. Because you finally understand that nothing real can be taken from you, only what was never yours to begin with. Most men panic when they feel emotional distance. They try to close the gap, to fill the silence, to recreate the connection. But the more you try to control the distance, the more you feed it. True detachment is the opposite. It's learning to sit inside that silence without fear. It's saying, if she walks away, I remain whole. And that kind of peace is irresistible. You see, when you detach, you don't stop giving love. You give it differently. You give it without ownership, without expectation, without trying to make it last forever. You start to love from freedom, not from fear. And that's what makes you powerful. Not because you stop feeling, but because your feelings no longer control you. A woman can sense when a man is emotionally detached in the right way. When his calm isn't arrogance, but awareness. She feels safe around him because he's not driven by need. He's present, not desperate, focused, not fixated. He doesn't beg for connection. He creates it through his stillness. Detachment teaches you that love isn't meant to be owned. It's meant to be experienced. And once you understand that, you stop chasing temporary emotions and start embodying permanent strength. When you love without attachment, you love from truth. When you live without fear, you live with power. And when you can let go, she feels it. Not as rejection, but as depth. Because true strength doesn't come from holding tighter. It comes from knowing you could let go and still be at peace. Number 4, when she feels your energy shift. The moment your energy shifts, everything changes. She might not understand it right away, but she feels it. The silence, the calm, the lack of tension in your messages, the way your attention no longer bends around her moods. What used to be predictable, your constant effort, your instant replies, your need for closeness, suddenly disappears. And for the first time in a long time, she starts to wonder. You didn't become cold. You became composed. You didn't stop caring. You stop chasing. And that change in vibration speaks louder than any words could. She starts to feel something she hasn't felt in a while. Uncertainty. Because before, she always knew you'd be there, ready to fix, ready to reassure, ready to prove your loyalty. Now, your silence carries a new kind of weight. It says, I've stopped trying to convince you. That's when her curiosity awakens. Every woman, whether she admits it or not, is drawn to emotional stability. The moment you stop reacting, you become magnetic. She begins to notice the difference. The man who once explained everything now just smiles. The man who used to check in now focuses on his own world. The man who used to chase her energy now protects his. At first, she might test it. She'll say something subtle, something designed to provoke a reaction. Maybe she'll mention another man, or say she's been busy. But when you stay calm, when you don't take the bait, it doesn't frustrate her. It fascinates her. Because she suddenly realizes she no longer controls your emotions. That's the power shift. It's invisible, but it's undeniable. You've moved from seeking validation to becoming it. And she feels it in every moment you don't chase, every silence you don't fill, every smile that says, I'm fine either way. Here's the paradox. The more peace you project, the more chaos she feels. Because for the first time, the balance of power has shifted. Not because you manipulated it, but because you reclaimed yourself. Your new energy isn't coldness. It's clarity. It tells her, you don't decide my worth anymore. And that's when attraction starts to rebuild. Not because you did more, but because you finally did less. When she feels your energy shift, she starts remembering what first drew her to you. Your calm, your mystery, your direction. She starts missing the version of you that didn't need her approval to exist. And now, that man is back, stronger, quieter, untouchable. Number 5. Why power feels like peace. Most men think power is noise. The louder you are, the more control you have. But real power feels nothing like that. Real power is quiet. It's the man who doesn't react, the man who doesn't explain himself, the man who could speak, but chooses silence because he knows words won't change truth. That's the kind of power that makes people pay attention without you having to demand it. Power feels like peace because it comes from within. It's not dependent on how others treat you or how the world reacts to you. It's rooted in knowing who you are, completely, unapologetically, and refusing to negotiate your self-worth. You see, weakness doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it looks like over-effort, the constant need to prove, to please, to perform. The man who always explains himself, who overgives, who fears losing what's already slipping away, that man doesn't lack love. He lacks center. Peace is the result of alignment. When your actions match your values, you stop feeling pulled in every direction. You stop chasing. You stop begging. You realize that true love, like true power, cannot be taken by force. It must flow toward you naturally. This is why Stoicism is so misunderstood. People think it means being emotionless. But it's the opposite. Stoicism is emotional maturity. It's being able to feel deeply without losing balance. It's being able to love without surrendering your identity. A man with inner peace is a man who doesn't flinch when the world tests him. When she gets distant, he stays calm. When she's cold, he stays warm, but not desperate. When things fall apart, he rebuilds from the inside first. That's what makes him unshakable. And when a woman meets that kind of energy, she feels something she can't explain. Safety. Not the kind that comes from control, but from stability. She realizes that no matter what happens, this man won't collapse under emotion. He's solid, grounded, a rock in the storm. That's the kind of presence that doesn't just attract love. It commands respect. Because peace is magnetic. It's the quiet confidence that says, I don't chase love. I create it through who I am. When you finally understand that power feels like peace, not pressure, you stop fighting for control. You stop begging for love. You stop doubting yourself. And that's when you realize you never needed to hold power. You just needed to stop giving it away. Number 6, when she starts respecting you again. Respect doesn't return because you asked for it. It returns because you stopped needing it. At first, she won't understand what changed. She'll sense something different, The tone in your voice, the way you carry yourself, the stillness in your presence. You're not the same man who once over-explained, who tried to prove his worth through effort. You've become quiet, but confident, distant, but centered, calm, but undeniable. And that shift doesn't go unnoticed. She begins to feel your strength again, not in how loud you are, but in how still you've become. The man who once reacted to every silence now embraces it. The man who once panicked when she pulled away now simply continues forward. That composure, it hits differently. At first she'll test it. She'll say things to provoke you, hoping to see if the old version of you is still there. The one who begged, the one who needed validation. But when she sees that nothing shakes you anymore, something changes inside her. That's when respect returns, not as admiration, but as recognition. She remembers who you were before fear took over. Because women don't lose attraction to strong men. They lose it when men forget their strength. When she sees that you've reconnected with that calm energy, she starts to remember what drew her in at the beginning. It wasn't how much you gave, it was how complete you were. Respect is not built through effort, it's built through essence. And your essence grows when you stop begging for attention and start protecting your peace. She starts to feel safe again, not because you promised stability, but because you embody it. You no longer fight for her approval, because you already found it within yourself. You no longer react to her distance, because your sense of value isn't up for negotiation. And that quiet, unspoken strength becomes irresistible. Ironically, this is the moment she starts chasing you again. She texts more. She compliments you. She finds excuses to reconnect. But this time, it's not out of ego. It's out of curiosity. She wants to understand how you became so grounded, so unbothered, so at peace. And that's the ultimate lesson. You don't regain her respect by trying to change her mind. You regain it by changing your energy. The man who holds his frame commands respect without force. Because when you no longer need validation to feel worthy, you become the kind of man she can't stop respecting or forgetting. Number 7, the freedom that comes with power. When you finally stop begging for love, something extraordinary happens. You get your freedom back. Not just the freedom to walk away, but the freedom to stay without fear. The freedom to love without losing yourself. The freedom to express without expecting anything in return. That's what real power feels like. Quiet, effortless, complete. Freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. Not the weak kind, the strong kind. The kind that says, I can let things be as they are because I trust myself enough to handle whatever comes next. That's what separates the Stoic man from the reactive one. The reactive man needs everything to go his way to stay calm. The Stoic man stays calm no matter what way things go. You see, power was never about getting her back. It was about getting yourself back. The version of you that walked with certainty. The version that didn't overthink every text, every silence, every word. The man who could love deeply, but never lose his center. That's who you were meant to be all along. And now, you've returned to him. This is the paradox of emotional mastery. The less you try to control people, the more influence you have. Because your presence becomes rare, your calm becomes mysterious, and your silence begins to carry the weight of 1,000 words. When a man reaches this level of peace, his energy speaks before he does. He doesn't chase, but opportunities chase him. He doesn't argue for his worth, because it's already obvious. He doesn't demand loyalty. He inspires it. That's the freedom that comes from real power. You can look at her, or anyone, and say, I love you, but I don't need you. Not because you've stopped caring, but because your self-respect is non-negotiable. That's when love stops being a transaction and becomes a reflection of your inner state. A man who is free in his heart cannot be manipulated. He cannot be guilt-tripped, rushed, or controlled. His silence, his focus, and his peace are his boundaries. And those boundaries are what make him untouchable. That's what women feel when they meet a Stoic man. Not arrogance, but calm authority. Because freedom, when paired with discipline, becomes something stronger than attraction. It becomes respect. So when you hold power without begging for love, you don't lose people. You reveal who truly deserves to stay. And that realization is the kind of freedom that no one can take away. Here's the truth. Most men never learn until it's too late. You don't lose power when you love. You lose it when you beg for love. Power and love can exist together, but only when love comes from choice, not from need. When you love as a whole man, not a broken one, love becomes expansion, not submission. You give freely because you want to, not because you fear being alone. You stay calm because you've learned that peace is more valuable than attention. The Stoic man doesn't reject love. He simply refuses to let it define him. He knows that love is beautiful, but it's not his purpose. His purpose is growth. His peace, his clarity, his mission. Love is the reward that life gives him when he walks his path with strength and stillness. But when love becomes the mission, chaos always follows. You see, the moment you start begging, with words, with actions, or even with energy, you lose the very thing that made her love you in the first place, your presence. Because women don't fall for the man who gives them everything. They fall for the man who gives from abundance, not desperation. That's the Stoic truth about power. You don't gain it through force, status, or control. You gain it by mastering yourself. Every time you choose silence over reaction, peace over panic, direction over drama, you're holding power. Every time you walk away from what disrespects your energy, you're honoring the man you were meant to be. The man who begs for love loses both himself and the love he's chasing. But the man who embodies love, through calm, purpose, and self-respect, becomes unforgettable. So stop chasing what's running. Stop trying to fix what doesn't want to be fixed. Stop proving what's already evident in your presence. Hold your frame. Stay grounded. Let your silence speak, because the strongest men aren't those who control women. They're the ones who control themselves. And once you reach that level of discipline, you'll understand something most never do. Love is not supposed to complete you. It's supposed to meet you where you already stand complete. When you love from that place, you never beg again. You don't chase peace. You become it. And that's when the world and love itself begins to chase you.